7. Maybe one more. Set the H. I believe we're recording. We're going to go ahead and get started. Today is Thursday, October 5th, 2023. It's 9:04 a.m. in this meeting, the Dallas Planning Commission. As always, a couple of quick items. This is a briefing and it's strictly a time for questions from the commissioners to staff. We'll keep all our comments for the horseshoe this afternoon. I'd like to welcome two new commissioners, Commissioner Hall, Commissioner Chernock. Welcome. We all look very much forward to working with you and helping ramp up that learning curve, which I think you may not be as steep as for your normal new commission. We have one Commissioner Hall came from ZOAC, and Commissioner Chernock spent plenty of time at the Board of Adjustment. So both of them know kind of what we do and how things work. With that, Commissioners, we'll get started on the docket. Miscellaneous item, we want to do for request, the briefing for request. Commissioners, anyone have any questions on the development plan, case number 1? Does anyone need to brief? Any questions on this? Yes, please.
I'm just curious, if a U-shaped driveway through that property, is it one way? Does it matter if it's one way? Does that affect traffic flow or anything?
Well, it's 26 feet, so it's 2 lanes. So it's also a fire lane as well. And so we worked with the fire reviewer to make sure that it was in compliance so the fire truck can get through the property in case something happened to the second building and get back around. But it is a 2 lane system, 26 feet.
It is two.
Yes.
I suppose I have a question. It obviously is triggering Article 10, and it looks like creating some significant additions to landscape because of that. That's, am I reading that right?
Sure.
Look like that west property line is getting a lot of these.
Yes, to the west, there is an art sector pond, but we did work with the arborists, and so, they're providing a fence also there for the landscape screening for that parking and for that use in the residential place.
That's the way I was seeing this one. Thanks, sir.
Any other questions, Commissioners? Would anyone would like this brief? Okay. Headed into our zoning cases. First case under advisement, I think it's going to be number 2, correct? The date.
January the 18th.
Have meeting dates for 24th.
Was the second here in January, whenever it is.
Not yet, we're waiting for council to vote their agenda, and after they vote their dates, we're gonna come with the calendar.
Great. So we will have a meeting on 18th.
You know, the second one is yours, it's the third.
The next case has been briefed before. Do you have any updates on this one?
No.
Any change? That's for. Presenting for number 3. Questions online, case number 4. I've been briefed before.
Mr. Chair, I have a conflict of interest on that case and am turning off my video.
Thank you, Commissioner Young. Commissioners, this case has been briefed before. If we have any questions, Ms. Williams will be with us at 10 a.m. But will there be any questions for her? No questions. Okay, let's see, get Commissioner Young back. Logged on, and he's back. Thank you, sir. Number 5 will be today.
Yes. Yes.
Case number C 223-197, is a double request is one of general zoning change to a D1 liquor control overlay and a new specific use permit for the sale of alcoholic beverages in conjunction with a general merchandise or food store that is less than 3,500 square feet. The property is now zoned CR to green retail and has a D liquor control overlay. And it's on the south line of Lake June Road, east of North San Alberto Road, and it's approximately 0.3 acres. It is located in southeast Dallas. You can see on the aerial, it is across the street from the city library. It is on the same side, we have another restaurant, some vacant buildings on both sides, a restaurant in the back, so it's a portion of a retail corner with the library. Further back, there is a multifamily development. You can see on the zoning map, the areas in red are the ones that are D, meaning that alcohol sales can happen. The one in blue are D1, meaning alcohol sales can happen, really subject to approval of a specific use permit, which is why we have a double request in front of us today. There is another SUP diagonally to the south that has alcohol sales. This is the property, straight access from Lake June Road. It's only the front portion of the property. In the back is vacant to the east of the property. To the west, there's a restaurant, a larger view of the corner, the library across the street. This is the behind on St. Augustine Road, the liquor sales. This is the proposed site plan. It has, you can see the existing, it's all existing conditions, no changes. They are not proposing to touch the site in any way other than just utilize the building. They didn't open their business yet, but they are planning to open this general merchandise and starting all sales immediately. They didn't pull permits or sales or anything. The SUP conditions are pretty straightforward. The site plan, staff recommendations for 2 years, and this is what the applicant requested, and normal maintenance and general requirements. The staff recommendation is approval for a 2-year period subject to site plan and conditions.
Questions, Commissioners?
Is this, what kind of business is this? Is it a convenience store or? It's a convenience store?
Yes, we call it general merchandise and food store because they can do sales of a lot of things, and it's smaller. It's the smallest kind that's under 3.
Okay.
The sale of alcohol is the one that we do, yes.
Any other questions? Okay, keep moving. Go under individual cases, beginning with case number 6. Perfect. Morning.
You'll have to get that screen in my which is.
You want me to share?
Are you serious?
Oh, I am not, but you can use my laptop and share it with me.
This is where. I got it.
Sure. All right, sorry about that. C223106 is located south of LBJ, in the southwest part of the city. And it's an application for one, a CS commercial service district with deed restrictions volunteered by the applicant. And two, a specific use permit for commercial motor vehicle parking on the property zoned in a agricultural district on the southeast line of Telephone Road at the terminus of Van Horn Drive. The area of request is 5.3 acres. The purpose of the request is to allow commercial motor vehicle parking on the site. Here's an area map of the site as it exists today. And so, currently zoned agricultural, as is much of the south part of the block. To the west, there's agricultural uses. Cedar Valley College is further to the south, and there's a natural area behind the site. To the east, there is, from staff observation, a commercial amusement outside machinery, heavy equipment, or truck sales and service, but couldn't confirm because there's no CO for that use. Agricultural to the east as well, natural area to the north, kind of up the creek from this site. There's single family directly across Telephone from this site, and then catty corner, there is a warehouse at this time.
Michael?
Commissioner Young, can you see the presentation? No,
No.
I cannot see it.
We're sharing.
So we're sharing just.
Sorry about that.
I was looking at this. There we go.
You can see it now? Okay, it's up. Thank you.
If any information needs to be gone back over, I'm happy to do so. So subject parcel is undeveloped 5.34 acre lot. Proposed uses are commercial, motor vehicle parking, and machinery, heavy equipment, or trucks, sales, and service. The lot would be accessed from Telephone Road. The proposed use of commercial motor vehicle parking is allowed by right in the CS that's proposed, but requires an SUP within 500 feet of residential zoning. As block mainly consists of residential zoning, an SUP is required in addition to the general zoning change. And the property and its surroundings are generally agricultural or residential in character. All right, we get to the site. So here's the site, looking south from Telephone Road as it exists today. It's a little farther down Telephone Road as it exists today. Now it's one more view farther southwest. And then the next lot to the west as well, agricultural lot. Turning around, I'm looking up the Telephone Road at the warehouse that exists today. Moving up, that's the intersection of Van Horn Drive and Telephone. Looking north, you can see treed area on the right, small single family subdivision in there. Now I've kind of flipped around, going up Telephone Road. This is the creek that's adjacent to the site. This is the site to the east. And to the north, there's sort of that creekway that is farther up the creek from this subject site. So when we get on down to the site planning, you can see the lot itself is contours to the creek, and so they propose a site plan that sort of matches that. But generally, you have entrances from Telephone Road, mechanic bays, commercial truck parking spots, and additional spots in the rear, but then they enter and exit off of Telephone Road. So most of that central part being a paved maintenance and parking area. And so they do have the SUP component of it, multiple components to this. And they have typical conditions. They're requesting 5 years with auto renewal, and they're requesting operations from 6 and 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday, ingress, egress, as shown on the plan, which is from Pelicon, there's two of them. And off-street parking as located on the site plan, and requiring a 6-foot minimum height fence. And this is it for the conditions, beyond the standard. As for the development standards, we have the existing ag zoning. And its standards, I can highlight any one of those if necessary. But generally CS is a more intense district than would be ag in terms of lot sizes, setbacks, and coverage, things like that. Now, I recognize this is going to be difficult to read, so I'm happy to highlight anything, but I could not think of a better way to present this other than the charts that are already in the report. This is already in the report, but it is a little bit tricky. But we have our ag uses, pretty limited to residential kind of adjacent uses. CS is functionally a light industrial district, and then the CS with the DR takes out generally, as the report states, all but I think it's six or eight permanent uses. So they've cut down the uses in the CR to only a few full-time uses, creating a pretty prescriptive district. I mean, know there's no way you're reading this, but any particular use we can highlight, I'm happy to, but it is in the report. But this is for me to come back and refer to more than anything. So staff recommendation is denial. We found that based on the surrounding character, the aspect of the site being located on the creek, being located generally adjacent to agricultural and residential for a significant distance in either direction, and the potential for impacts in either the proposed SUP use or other CS-based uses. Do I have any questions?
You do, thank you, Mr. Pepe. Questions, Commissioner Black?
Mr. Pepe, how are you this morning? You are aware that there is additional deed restrictions that are going to be provided by the applicant that would give buffering around the creek.
I'm not aware of those yet.
Okay, are you aware that also we're holding this case for
I know that one. I know that one.
and that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. The 19th?
Yes, until just one.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'll read it.
Oh, I have more questions.
Commissioner Henry?
I have a question. In the single family across the street, roughly how many single family homes are in there?
I'm gonna scroll way back. And I'm gonna need to zoom in a little to make it out. There's a number of lots, not all of them being occupied. Yeah, you can see there, you can make out 4 lots. I think 4 of them are developed. There's probably 5 lots there, but I think 4 of them are built out with homes. That's directly across telephone. Yeah, you can see the lots and the homes here. And those are zoned to ag. I ventured that they have they're zoned to ag and used as single family. I venture to bet their lot sizes are as they are because they're pre-annexation or pre-zoning.
So the single family is the use, not the underlying zoning?
Agricultural district is a residential district, and it's filed in with all the other single family districts. Its primary use is single family plus crop production and livestock.
And the next question I had was, is there any letters of support or opposition out of the residential?
I checked this morning, and I had 2 letters of opposition. That was
And it's a rule of thumb, the day before the city plan commission, so our deadline for receiving all of those are the letters that are sent by us, the reply forms. It's noon the day before, and right after that, we create packets, we call them PON, and we send them to you. So rarely the planner has to do with that, but they come straight to you. And if we receive any correspondence from somebody who was not notified and just wanted to send you email, we will forward it to you.
I just happen to have time today to check.
Coach Hampton.
Thank you. That was one of my questions. So it is, the underlying zoning is still ag with the current use of single family. And then adjacent to that, is that light industrial? Is that what I see on the zoning map? On each side of,
You're seeing, you are seeing, let's zoom out, then we switch slides, then we zoom in again. Okay, so the south side of Telephone Road, everything you see in this still is zoned to ag. The north side, there's sort of a panhandle of ag and that's used as single family. And then to the southeast or to the southwest and northeast of that, you're seeing LI zoning, yes, on the north side. It's a pretty big road though.
and the second question, it was the other one, I think Commissioner Blair mentioned, was there any consideration to staff review this? I understand it's not, but if it was to move forward, buffering of the creek and how the creek might be treated, that would make it more compatible. I just wanted to question if that was anything that came through staff review.
I think that could alleviate some of what went into the recommendation, as you've seen in the docket. Issues with hitting the goals of CCAP are listed in the docket as related. However, we must keep in mind this is not only an SUP approval, this is also a CS-based district approval, which implies a degree of uncertainty that may not be only pertinent when looking at the site plan, because there'll be by right uses.
So with that in mind, and that there's LI to the north of Telephone Road, was there a different district that would be more compatible and more consistent with the area plan?
There's
Vision for the area?
There's not a less intense way to do this kind of use here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You, Commissioner Blair.
I had noticed in your case report, that you notified us that there were no, recent zoning changes within the last 5 years. But is it not correct that this particular, that I have approved, I've had 3 cases within the last year and a half, 2 years, of which one is directly across the street where that single-family house is located, and that CPC and City Council approved it for a warehouse. And that would have been that Mr. Baldwin right there, worked on. That would have been, I think, at 3925 Telephone Road. Council approved it on the 7th of March, in which we're putting a warehouse right there for the additional buffering for that residential. That would have been zoning case 212323.
So as we discussed, I got a slide with the zoning history on here.
I know that you said it's outside of your notification area, but it still lends credence to the point I'm going to get to if you give me some time to get there.
Okay.
I'm not an attorney. But I come around some of them enough.
Well, is there?
That could be dangerous.
I know, and there was a case, C-201-149, that was approved by City Council May 11-212, that's at 3360 Telephone Road. That is a SUP for commercial motor vehicle parking. And that there is the case Z-201-345 that was approved 1/11/22, which was CS, which is right there at Telephone Road and Travis Trail. That is Roberts Trucking, 3918 Telephone Road, that was approved, like I said, approved 1/11/22. the only case that we denied based on residential use is the one that was on Travis Trail that was further down, that negatively impacted the residential along Travis Trail. Is that not correct? Yeah.
Yes, that one was.
And is it not true that the resident that is right there, that Mr. what's your name? Baldwin, that we worked on, that has, land use violations? And the one, like you said, there is no CO for the
Adjacent lot to the east.
the adjacent lot to the east. And that there was a case that was just west of it, Sunburst Trucking, that is being built right now, that is another warehouse. Is it not also evident that the largest warehouse that is a distribution center that was just built within the last 3 years is Kroger Distribution Center, which is right at the end of the corner of Telephone Road? And that this type of land, that this area, is it not true this area is in transition? One from ag, residential, and to one supportive of PD 761, which is the inland port, which is supportive of all warehousing and trucking usage. Is that not true?
I absolutely acknowledge that in a number of cases, further up Telephone Road to the east, that is near the intersection of Bonneview and Telephone Road. Some of them access from that, some of them access from Telephone on the far side of the creek. However, in our analysis, lots are pretty big out here, right? Distance is significantly more than it may look on a map here. So this was a significant stretch in our analysis of consistently zoned agriculturally used land and agriculturally used land in alignment with that zoning or single family use, which are both the typical uses of ag zoning. So we saw it as a significant stretch, about 3/4 of a mile on the south side of Telephone. Not only that, but the distance, the width of Telephone Road being significant makes a pretty clear distinction, in our opinion and estimation, from the north to the south of Telephone Road. So that's how the ongoing development cases was evaluated.
We'll discuss it further.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rubin.
Yeah, Mr. Pepper, I wanted to follow up with just a couple of quick questions. I understand that there are a variety of uses allowed in these light industrial CS districts, and we do see a lot of warehouses to the north, to the east. How does staff, view the impact of a large warehouse like the Kroger warehouse, or the warehouse to the northwest, compared to commercial vehicle motor parking in terms of intensity of use and impact on surrounding properties?
Yes, I would say that maybe the concerns that go into them are a little different. I understand that commercial motor vehicle parking use is likely that's the word I'm looking for. It's likely a supportive use of warehouses, but that said, it's generally more of an outdoor use. This facility contains a component of vehicular repair, so I would generally find that is potentially more impactful on adjacent residential or entitled adjacent residential than would be just a warehouse. Warehouse will have some different concerns because it's a centralized, in kind of a traffic sense, because it's more centralized, and it's sort of a hub, whereas maybe the parking lots are more of an endpoint. But in this case, I think we have a bit more of an outdoor use noise contaminant concern than would we for a warehouse, whereas a warehouse could maybe be more discrete or compact in how its adjacency issues are spreading. But I think we evaluate this one that mandates, commercial motor vehicle parking mandates that it's a significant impervious surface and that it's an outdoor use generally. I think that plays into a degree about a difference about intensity there, especially in adjacency to residential. Whereas the warehouse, we'd be thinking more maybe traffic oriented and the impacts of that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hall?
Commercial amusement next door, what does that mean?
Commercial amusement is, commercial amusement's a broad category. Just from observation by staff, again, we didn't have COs. It looks like it's either so commercial amusement outdoor can include a lot of things. Like a sport facility where people gather for a ticketed event or something like that. It appeared like a charo ring when I was there, so that was how we assessed that, but wouldn't be allowed in the base zoning. So that's why it probably doesn't have a certificate of occupancy. But I did see that, and it looks like a use that was established in the past 4 or 5 years.
If you look at Google Maps, it says that property next door is Omar's Truck Repair.
Yeah.
So is that illegal or? Okay.
I can't be the one to assess that, but based on the fact that it had a certificate of occupancy, and then it appears to be a new use, they probably would have difficulty getting a certificate of occupancy for those 2 uses. But yeah, you're right, it says Omar's Truck Repair. So I also observed that both of those are involved from observation.
So a concern I have is truck repair. I'm thinking hazardous chemicals that are going to get leached into that creek and down into that lake at the college. Now, I don't know if any of the proposed buffering would alleviate that. I think that might be a stretch, but.
Yeah, that use with the machinery, heavy equipment, or truck sales and service is one of the same uses on the subject lot. They may be doing it to the east, but it appears they don't have the zoning for it. But the truck, heavy equipment sales and service is also a component of this subject site. So the same logic would apply.
I would make a comment that all of these like discharge, water flow, and all of that is usually addressed at permitting, and they are trying to make sure that nothing goes outside of the property. So there are rules in place when they pull their permitting, with the pavings, the side retention, on-site retention, and all of that. So we cannot automatically assume that it's all going to be paved and it all drains to the creek, because we do have engineering manuals to address that at a moment.
Commissioner Carpenter?
It's a question. If Omar's Trucking can't possibly be legal because the agricultural zoning doesn't allow that use.
That is not for me to decide, but
Yeah, I do. Okay.
but
CO just sort of adds
dot
insult,
dot.
which means that they did not go through an engineering review first to see what you're doing is great.
Any other questions on this item, commissioners? Okay, we're going to next phase, which is thing D8, we're done with it.
Next case is Z23195. It's a general zoning change, an application for an MU1 mixed use district on a property that's on RNA. It's on the northeast line of Seagoville Road, southeast of Ravenview Road, and it's 3.5 acres approximately. It's southern Dallas, right at the top of the hood, close to Beltline and Seagoville. As you can see on the aerial, it is part of a larger block that has a variety of type of lot sizes. And it is developed with, looks like single family homes mostly or farms. There are some across the street, there are some auto-oriented uses. On the zoning map, you can see what's highlighted in blue. The entire corner of Ravenview and Seagoville is NS neighborhood service, and it has a B1 liquor control overlay. And then the entire area that has the larger lots is R10. But there are newer subdivisions that were built more recently. There are R75, and little R10 on further north. So the area request, as I said, is over 3.5 acres. It has a house that was built in the 40s for DCAT records, and it has a lot of additional buildings. I cannot say this word. The purpose of the request is for the applicant is proposing to develop the property with a mix of uses and housing types under the regulations of MU1, and I will show you what that means. Pictures from Seagoville. This is the subject property. You can see like very low density type of farmland type of development. Larger view with the properties to the north and south. Again, on Seagoville, further north, this is across the street, another home. Across the street, you can see that auto-oriented use. Then I did drive a lot around the block, so the entire block that is behind Seagoville, as I was saying, is a combination of smaller lots and larger lots. So behind, there are a lot of very charming streets with farms and large lots. So this is Fish Road, for instance, and it goes dead ends into Beltline in the back. So this is a case that I had a very hard time with. I looked into Kleberg land use area plan. I did think deeply about it because the reality on the map and what area plan loosely recommends versus what's built and developed there right now is a little bit different. So this is the existing land use map in the Kleberg, West Kleberg plan, and you can see this is the area where the property is, Seagoville. The Kleberg plan divides the area covered by the Plan 3, and this is part of the sub-area sub-area 1. And it recommends loosely on the future vision map, low to medium density residential. And you see like some neighborhood retail further down on Beltline. The vision statement of the Kleberg, and it's all in staff report, little better details. The community back then envisioned this to remain a rural type of environment and development pattern. However, and they were very protective of the rural character of the community. However, in the goals, they went on to say that they would like to encourage commercial development around commercial corridors or around thoroughfares. They went on to say that they do want some neighborhood serving uses and businesses and encourage low to medium density housing to meet varied income levels. But the plan goes on to say that the low to medium would be preferred to be single family. Took a lot of zoom out to see and understand the patterns. Again, huge challenges I had with this decision. As I was saying, newly developed subdivision R75, for instance, one access point in Seagoville, obviously way more homes, bigger lots, the same, bigger developments, the same to the north a little bit. I know we had some zoning cases, let's see if there's some even more. I was looking at these subdivisions, the new ones, how do they relate to the thoroughfares, how many access points they have, because you see they pop up just mid-block, and it's not like, oh, now we're dividing the block, we're creating the streets, and it's just happening. Subdivision by subdivision. This is our site here, so you see I was looking to see what the lot patterns are. Yes, so if we zoom out a little bit more on Beltline and Cedarville, this area here, we just 3-4 years back, the city approved the multifamily development. It is true that Beltline and Cedarville it's a major intersection of major thoroughfares, so this is significantly different. It has a significantly different character. We had a lot of other more denser type of residential approved along Ed Road. I was looking to see, is the area better well served by community service centers, schools, stuff like that, to support a little bit more density? Does it have enough retail? Comparison between development standards, between the uses, I put it in the staff report, obviously between an R and an MU, it's a big difference of uses, like MU comes with retail, personal service, office comes with a lot of uses versus an R, which is single family. But if we're looking at the development standards to see how intrusive this new development massing would be, there are a few things we need, and I explained them in my staff report. I wish I had the time to do a little diagram for RPS, but I will try to explain it. So the front yard of R10 is 30, of MU1 is 15, but because the block has a lot of R10, it's gonna have 30. Side yards for an MU when they are adjacent to R will have 20 or 20 feet. So it's a little bit, the code tried to encourage a little bit of buffering there. 20 feet, is that enough or not? This MU1, if they are to take advantage of the mixed income housing bonus, they can increase the number of dwelling unit density, but that's it. But again, we have to keep in mind the type of NVA category it is. So what is the likeliness to take advantage of this bonus? But right now, MU1 has a cap on dwelling unit density. The FAR, now it comes with an FAR and with a big height. However, all the R properties around it are going to generate RPS, not going to really significantly cap the height. I did an estimate in my staff report. I don't think that they will be able to ever go above 35 feet. So I didn't have brief over the height or massing. The same with the stories, obviously, everything is capped by the RAR. And there are some visual intrusion and DIR trip generation if they have more intensive uses. This is an FYI site plan. I didn't want to put it in the staff report. It's just for information. It's a general zoning change. We don't have any exhibits. The applicant also has a presentation to explain his concept. But as I was saying, it's a narrow lot that's facing Seagoville. They wanted to do a little retail strip facing Seagoville and put different types of multifamily, or I don't know if he plans to even do townhomes of single family ownership type. I think he said that he intends to do multifamily. He went through a few iterations of the conceptual idea of what he wants to develop. I think he landed on 20 dwelling units, seems about right. Considering the fact that RPS and everything is really significant, but down the density. And all the parking that comes with it. This is not, again, I will emphasize this as much as possible. We did not review this exhibit. I don't even think it's gonna pass permitting. There are a lot of details when it comes to access points. These driveways are too wide, too close to one another. So for sure it's not gonna look like that. But he was trying to say, okay, what can I develop on this property and what can I maximize? So this is what he had in mind. And you see, as I was saying, given the height, I don't even think that they will ever be able to go, he's showing 30 feet, and I think it sounds about right to stay under the RPS. And the RPS is gonna force to be 26 feet for a long chunk of the property. This being said, staff recommendation is approved.
Thank you. Questions, commissioners? Commissioner Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Drea. And I was reading in your case report, it said that they were intending retail and multifamily, but I only saw the reference to the 20 multifamily units are proposed, but there's no plan associated because this is just a straight zoning change.
Yes.
So with that in mind, and thank you for sharing the exhibit because I was trying to kind of think about it. Would Article 10 require a buffer at the adjacent residential zoning with the change?
Yes, yes.
And
Yes, a lot of like, that's why I'm saying, please don't take this site plan as anything other than his conceptual sketch to think what he can do. I am, when it comes to engineering, to parking, to Article 10, I think it's gonna look a little bit, this looks way more intense than what I think realistically can be done.
And so I guess he hasn't really indicated this is in a deal that they don't know what they're intending to develop. Again, I'm just trying to understand.
He's
the
intending
nuance.
to develop multifamily with a retail strip.
Okay, thank you.
But again, as I,
Yeah, that's
that goes to permitting, all these driveways, I will tell you right now, they are not okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Black. Followed by Commissioner Young.
The single entry, this lot, can you put the lot length, yes, that one, thank you.
This one, okay.
The way that this lot is built, it exists. It only provides the one entry point, exit point, is that correct?
Yeah, because it's a single family right now.
Correct. And but it has a narrow, does it not have a very narrow entry, including the house that is currently sitting on that lot, correct?
It is a narrow.
And then it's extremely deep, correct?
It is, it has.
And with it being mid-block, there is no way to connect it anywhere but the one entry point, correct?
Yes, that is correct. It is mid-block, it only has frontage on Seagoville. That's what I was trying to make the same point regarding this development, for it's the same one access point in Seagoville, because it's such a deep and large block, they don't have streets right now, so it's challenging to go in first.
So, and thank you for saying it's challenging to go in first. So if there was a pattern that would render access in the back, then it would be a far easier development to give the rise to the standard 2 entry points.
I mean, it would, again, it would make for a more, natural type of development. For instance, if it was this one, you see, this property here already has this, exactly, so we'd have said, okay, we can assume that the permitting, they will have that cross access. But, right now, I mean, it is in the middle of the block with only one front.
They
So,
could, just jumping in, they could theoretically, emphasis on theoretically, get an access easement through those adjacent properties, to that major street to the northwest, or, to that existing connection to that subdivision that's built out to the southeast.
they could.
Could, yeah.
They could.
Very highly theoretical, but to Andrea's point about, sort of the redevelopment of this block with more of an established street, and she's right, it is a huge block. That's, like she said, it's hard to be the first, but that could kind of establish a new pattern within the block for access.
Are you aware that there was a community meeting? And
I think the applicant mentioned, and I would let him, address that.
and were you aware that, well, you guys are already aware, I just received an email, from the president of the Crime Watch, who is speaking for the community. And I asked staff to forward it to, and they're, including the neighbors that are right around there, their desires are for something entirely different.
I am aware.
And based on what we have seen in the past from this community, is this not a community that who would love to see a more rural standard opposed to urban standard? You remember?
I understand your question. I'm trying to like say that this is your role as a commissioner and I dearly appreciate that. I would say that we go by the vision plan. Some areas do have an area plan. It is true that, as I was saying in my staff report and presentation, the area plan does state that the community is holding very close the rural character here.
And if we were building, if this was, like you said, closer to that development that's, where's that, to the east? The one that's built out, that would be, yeah, that one, is that east and west?
It's
Southeast, south, whatever. If it was next to it, it would give rise to a pattern, to the establishment of a pattern that would connect each one of the lots in the rear, so that you will have multi-entry points, multi-exit points, opposed to one that's only on a major road that you cannot have an excel, decel lane.
I would, and this is, I am very thankful for the conversation because you're talking about the reality on the ground, which is something that I was trying to also make. But I will also go back to this because the proposal on the map, that's what kind of like guiding my recommendation is that we have an NS here that doesn't allow residential, and I saw that this, it's an opportunity, again, on the map, to have an MU here that is a buffer between what's gonna remain a single family, and you can have a little more density or retail there. But you are correct, because when you put these two side by side, you see the map in here shows NS, but the reality on the ground is a little bit different.
Thank you.
Commissioner Young?
Yes, would you go to your slide with the development standards chart, please?
Yes.
There we go. I note that under R10A, it indicates no dwelling unit density maximum. That is reflective of the fact that in the R districts, the code does not specify a dwelling unit density. Is that right?
Yes, it's by lot size.
Well, that was where I was headed. With a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet, does that not impose a dwelling unit density maximum of somewhere around 4 units an acre?
Yes, probably, but it's a narrow lot with one frontage. So if they are to plat, I think they need to create some sort of shared access. So it poses some conversation there. I didn't test that. How
Well, yeah,
many
whether,
single family units they can maximize? I did not test that.
well, whether it's 3.5 or 4 or whatever, based on geometry and layout and platting, we know it can't be more than 4.356 because that would use up the entire property at 10,000 square feet per lot.
3.5 acres. I'll do a little math quick.
All right, 43,560 square feet per acre divided by 10,000 is 4.356. Well, in any event, my point is that there is a functional limitation in R10 that is, in theory at least, only 25% or so of what would be allowed in MU1.
You're saying that if it is to be maximized under R10, it can be maximized with like, you said 25% of the units that they can go under MU1? Did I understand that correctly?
No. That would require a CUD, which doesn't increase the total dwelling unit density. What I'm saying is an acre of land in R10 cannot mathematically achieve more than 4.356 dwelling units.
Yes.
Okay. So instead of going from no max to 15 to 25, we're going from 4.356 to 15 to 25.
It's 3.5 acres. That's what I'm saying. So I can take out, like I would say, a 20% for streets and stuff. I need to.
So
like,
it may be
search
less than
help me a
4.
little bit of math.
It may be less than 4.356, but it's not no maximum.
No, what I am meaning in my table is to show what this code says, and the code says no maximum. But in reality, if you do the math, and they can put more units because it's a 3.5 acre lot. But the intent of my table is to say that the code doesn't have a dwelling unit density on R10, because what you are allowed to is like build 1 unit per 1 lot, that's 10,000.
But if, and I'm making a bigger deal of this than it is, but if you filled up the entire site with lots and helicoptered everyone into their houses, the most you could possibly get in R10 is 4.356 dwelling units an acre.
Yes, and it's 3 acres, so probably you can get 8 units. I don't know. Like, I really need somebody who's a single family developer to.
But if we're comparing apples to apples, we compare some number which we don't know, but which cannot be more than 4.356 to 15 to 25, recognizing that the site constraints may not let them get to 15 to 25.
So we're saying 4.3 times 3.5, that's the math that I need to do, which is maximum, and I would extract the 20% for streets.
But
I still think they can squeeze in probably.
the dwelling unit density is not site by site, it's acre by acre.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying, yes.
Okay.
And but
Thank
you
you.
see what you're doing, it is acre by acre, you're right. I was jumping into the reality on the ground, so he's proposing to put 20 units of multifamily, and then if he would be to develop by right, he would put, I don't know, I'm very, very guessing here, 6, 7 single family.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rubin.
Just a couple of follow-up questions. There were a couple of questions on, one ingress and egress point versus, potentially having 2 if there were, multiple street frontages or an easement or, something like that. Assuming no access easement and only the street frontage along Cedaville, would they run into permitting issues in terms of ingress and egress?
I think, I don't know, David is here, I think, I am not sure that they can put 2 the way he's showing on the site plan, but for sure they will put 1 that's gonna be in and out. And then they will work with fire marshal to make sure that it meets safety requirements.
I see Ms. Allgaier vehemently.
There's no permitting issue.
Okay. And one other thing I wanted to get your perspective on is I see 2 things in the Kleberg area plan, and I kind of want to understand how you reconcile them. One is preserve the rural character, low to medium density residential. On the other hand, there's also talk about adding neighborhood serving commercial and other, amenity type uses. Do you think those 2 things are in tension, or do you think they can, be reconciled? Because aren't rooftops important to getting those business uses
I think
in?
so. I think so. It would have helped if this future vision map was a little bit more specific. Because you see, it shows a commercial corridor, but that's a highway. The commercial corridor that's showing is not gonna be neighborhood serving. So, but the plan does talk about neighborhood serving. And then low to medium density residential, for me, this request is low to medium density residential. However, the plan goes on to say single family, so it's a lot, a lot for us to leave subject to interpretation when we get zoning cases like this.
Thank you.
Commissioner Houseround.
Yes, I want Dr. Madrid, just to clarify, based on your review of the site plan, which is not an official part of the case, you said 20 units. Did you mean 20 units total or 20 per acre?
Oh, 20 total. Yeah, that's what he did, the applicant did that. He started with a version that was way more intense. And when I pointed out that, okay, you can parking issues, RPS issues, stuff like that, he started to put those in, and he came with 20 in total because he's trying to show here how many parking spots was needed. And he has a little bit of breakdown of what type of units. You see he's showing per bedroom, and he's even showing some single family. That's why I'm saying I don't know if he intends to plat some of this.
So I see basically single family or townhouse kind of things on, what's in the middle? I can't.
These are multifamily unit, these are like your, this kind of 20. I think this is what's in there.
Seems more than.
It's more than 20.
That'd be more than 20.
Yeah.
Because you've got, there's 7, I count 17.
There's 17, it does say 17 here, so it,
That's gonna be more.
Is the retail just the front strip?
Yes.
So
You
you've
see,
got-
that's what he's saying.
You've got 2 multifamily potentially and then 17 single townhome things?
Something like that.
Yeah, that
And then
didn't
you
add up.
have all of this, so it probably may be more units.
And that's not 20. Or 25.
So we would, under base zoning, maybe there might be as many as 12 lots in, by my math. And then this is 30, 40 residences, something like that. Did I hear we have a housing shortage now?
Yes, we do have a new rate on the housing policy.
Right, I thought I heard that.
So you have this agriculture plot of land, you have a huge single family housing here, huge development here. Was there pushback on those 2 developments that surround it?
There are some letters that were received yesterday. I think they were in opposition, and we sent them to you guys, and I think there were 3. I didn't map them. But I can bring that up.
I mean, it looks to me like it's fairly rapidly getting built out all around this with, single family houses.
And this development, so the question,
Yeah.
if this would come under our 575.
And Jay, I think I remember reading in the case report that I'm doing it. One of your arguments for the appropriateness of a district like that is that it's kind of a transition between the neighborhood serving retail that's at the intersection, moving away from that towards the single family to the southeast.
Yes, that's what I was alluding to when I was talking to you there. Like, I was looking mostly at this map because when this was rezoned and it has this commercial corner, I'm thinking that was basically within the vision of the plan. And now this parcel that's right at the border of that commercial comes in for rezoning with an MU1, which is the least distinct of the mixed use, will make sense considering the fact that all the single family around it is gonna keep the height and all of that.
It just sort of looks like to me, I mean, the trend is it's gonna get filled in with more housing developments. And you see this in Mansfield and places like that, where you've got a 2-acre lot and you've got homes all around. I mean, yeah, I could imagine why they would want to push back against it, but it just doesn't seem practical to me in the long run.
Commissioner Wheeler.
Go back to this, I think this shows why.
I have concerns with, were there any community meetings around this? Because time and time again, we've heard out in this particular district that those community members were wanting to keep some of their rural feel with their R10 zoning. And this seems like that this is going against those areas that still have those R10 zonings and the community that's surrounded. So was there any community meetings around this particular development?
Yes,
I would let the applicant speak to that. He
Yes.
told me he had some, so.
there was a few, meetings with the community and with the applicant as well as the community within itself to discuss what they want to see in those.
So the
Yeah.
community in this area who usually go against anything that is not R10 is going with a development of, is essentially multifamily with some retail?
I can't hear her.
She's saying if the community in this area is typically against multifamily with a little bit of retail. And my answer would be that from what I recall, if I included this line, we did have this multifamily purely MF2 at the corner of Beltline and Seagoville, and I think the community was okay with that. I remember we had few zoning cases in here, but they didn't follow through. So I don't know, like, I will trust you and the community leaders or representing the community to basically be the voice for that.
I just noticed that over the last year that everything that came up in this district that was anything less than single family or R10 zoning, that it was said that the community wanted to keep that integrity of that community, and we've denied a lot of cases based off of hearing that from the commissioner in that district. And okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Hempel.
Just to follow up on that, and again, just trying to understand if the intent is, I think it sounds like primarily residential and to serve as a transition, is MU, it seems a little intense based on the R10, the R75, CR, which is sort of our lowest density in terms of our community service. Was there any other consideration of what might be more in line, if you will, a more gentle transition between?
I think the gentlest transition, NS is the most gentle, commercial type of or retail type of district model.
Or sorry, yes.
So, but NS doesn't allow any residential, so you cannot do mixed use. So I think his type of development includes a little bit of mixed use, and I was hooked up on the retail that he plans to put in front. I think MU1 is the gentlest density. It is unfortunate that it allows South Big Heights, but again, we have RPS, so RPS will take care of that. But I think that MU, when it comes to like a combination, it allows single family, it allows multi-family, but it also allows a lot of office retail, all of that.
Was there any consideration of utilizing a form district, and there may not be the density that makes that viable in this location, but just a question?
I don't think we have the critical mass for that. And then second, it doesn't have enough street frontage though. So the frontage is gonna be taken care of by the retail. That's what I was thinking when I was doing it.
I think there's a walkable mixed use, if I remember correctly, that allows for lighter retail and community serving uses within it, which is low density.
I didn't think of a form-based just because again, I don't think.
Yeah, and again, I recognize it may not be, but it has some of the other tools that I think we're talking about.
I like that idea, even if it doesn't.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Hampton, for highlighting the elephant in the room about it. Is it correct, Dr. Woodruff, that the lack of flexibility of our code makes infill development like this so complicated? We're now samples having to recommend an MU1 at 90 feet height. And we'll have, in fact, RPS helping limit the height here, but it's hard to find a place for this type of development.
Yes, and we have the questions like, is the 20-foot side setback enough of a buffer between an R10 and an MU? Is it like Article 10 has the residential buffer, I think it's 10 feet, is that enough? There are a lot of questions, so yes, there is, but it's big infill, it's not like a single lot, it's bigger infill, but considering the fact that the entire area is bigger lots, at the scale that now it's agriculture meeting some new recent subdivisions, you can count it as infill. Yeah, I'm deeply upset about the MU1, I'm sorry, I was talking to Andrea about it, and I'm like, what's with this height? We were supposed to like allow a little bit of buffering. Yeah.
Commissioner Problem.
This is a straight zoning change to MU1. That does not require any of this to be residential.
Does not require
any of the project to be residential.
Oh, no, she can come in and yes, to just office or.
Was there any concern about the uses that were allowed in MU1 being inserted into this area?
There are some, there are a little bit more intense. I was hoping again, RPS and all of the others. And that's why I put in my development chart to say that if they have a bigger number of vehicle trips, it will trigger DIR. But it is true, as I was saying, MU1, you would expect to have some MU districts that are very context sensitive use-wise and development standards we don't have. I was looking for something that's the least intrusive between an NX and allows the both residential.
If the applicant wanted to give guaranteed, would the people be just deed restrictions?
You could to cut some of the uses to restrict it further, yes.
I also just wanted to add to the discussion real quick. A little bird told me that there was an authorized hearing authorized for the Kleberg area by our very own Commissioner Blair back in 2020. Yes, we are allegedly to allow for more intense development than what's now for in the Kleberg plan.
No, that's not the plan of the authorized hearing. The plan of the authorized hearing is to review to update the existing authorized hearing, not to include more intensity of development, but to exclude intensity of development. And to further illustrate the desires of the community to remain extremely rural with coarse more coarse opportunities opposed to residential districts. That's the whole purpose of the authorized hearing, that the residents are requested to.
Any other commissioners on the side from? Okay. Maybe let's get our Commissioner Blair saying it, District 8.
This one is easy, I promise.
Case number 8.
This one is easy, I promise. I promise.
Ms. Garza, good morning.
And you really don't even need me for this one.
Oh, I'm clear.
So this item is, case Z 223211. So the request is an application for amendment to plan development number 1076. It is located on the south line of Riley Road, west of Hayes Market Road, north of Lyndon B. Johnson Freeway, and east of Potter Road. It's approximately 34.820 acres. So the location of the request is on the south of the Eastern Road. So this is the area of request. So zoning is mostly single family, public or private schools. There is a mobile home park in Mambala, northeastern, and then undeveloped land to the southeast. A little bit of background on the area request. On December 8, 2021, the City Plan Commission approved a plan development number 1076 for an R5 single family uses. The area request is currently undeveloped. The purpose of the request is to amend the reference of the concept plan and the company concept plan exhibit to reference a development plan and a company development plan exhibit and conditions, and to add a second access point to Riley Road, which will replace the previously proposed access to the Margaret Road. So these are some of the exact photos of the site. On Riley Road, looking south. On side looking south. On side looking south. On Potter Road, looking east. Yeah, looking east. Looking east. And on the Dawson Freeway, looking north. Yeah, looking north. And then surrounding uses. On Riley Road, looking southeast. Looking southwest. Looking northeast. Looking north.
looking northwest. And then on Prater, looking east. Looking east. And then on Prater, looking south. Looking southwest, looking northwest. Again, looking northwest. And then, so what they're proposing to amend is under section 51P 1076 104 exhibits. So as I mentioned, they're proposing to remove conceptual plan and amend the development plan, and then removing the plan and the development plan. So changing conceptual plan with development plan. And then they're also remove the word five under the section 51.76.109, yard lot and space regulations. As previously I have mentioned, for the 5 lots with the front yard along Prater Road, however, there's not 5, it's actually 7 lots, they're going to move into the 5. And then under the open space, staff is recommending for them to exclude groundwater recharge or retention area from the section 51P 1076-114 open space. And one of the reasons is staff recommending amending the open space provision to exclude groundwater and detention area to coincide with the development code. As detention area is considered dedicated area and not an open space. Section 51A 82017 of the code defines detention area to mean an area which temporarily stores stormwater, runoff, and discharges that run up at a reduced rate. And section 51A 2.102.1 of the code defines open space to mean an area that is unrestricted to the side and includes no certain set for ordinary protections of corners and units. This is another section which covers the open space, so staff recommending for them to exclude groundwater from the area. And this is the development plan existing. So previously the access was an access along Riley Road and an access along Game Market Road. They are proposing to amend it, to revise it, to remove the access along Hayden Market and add an additional second access along Riley Road. And then section conditions approval subject to development plan and staff recommended conditions.
Thank you very much. Questions, Commissioner Black?
Were you aware, Sparta, that the detention will also have a water feature so that it will be an amenity, not just a detention and a walking path around the amenity?
No, it's not aware until it's.
Okay, does that give you a better appreciation why the detention is being accepted the way it is?
Yes, but I do have Bill, the average.
I'm sorry, I can't understand. Say it again.
That I do have
Bill,
and David.
Transportation, right? And is there a problem?
Well, we want to let you know that area will be fenced, and so for an area, it will look green and open. And so from an aerial, it is green open space. From the ground, there'll be unless there are any other requirements, the developer would likely put a chain link fence between the green area, the green space, and the pedestrian walkway. So we just want to make sure the commission. From an aerial, it looks green and open. From the ground, it will be behind.
So.
Unless the commission approves conditions that would require.
Okay, so unless the commission, I can't hear you. Unless, say it again?
Unless the commission includes conditions that would allow for staff to deviate from city standards, for detention ponds.
Detention ponds, so doesn't the water wouldn't the water feature, Mr. Navarro, and make it more of multi-purpose use opposed to just detention with, is that not correct?
Well,
Yeah.
there is retention and detention. Are we requiring the applicant, because are we giving the applicant an option or?
No, it's on one piece. It's a standard that I've always done. This is the first time we're going through this process. In every development that is in District A that has a detention pond, it's been built out and approved through City Council as well as CPC, that the detention in District A has always been with a water feature so that it could be an amenity and not a fenced-in,
The Social Security Administration at the intersection of Wheatland and Polk
No.
is a good example of
Social Security, Wheatland.
Wheatland and Polk.
That's the government center.
Thank you, ma'am. That has a detention area just,
Yes, and it does, and
and it's fenced.
and it's ugly. Extremely ugly.
It-
And
Because we can ask the applicant to make it look more, but we require them to fence it because
I feel this was supposed to be an easy one and that you didn't need to.
So I could jump in real quick. So unless there have been a new set of conditions sent out following the publication of the docket, I'm not, have there?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not seeing anything in PD 1076 as it's published in the docket, whether the original conditions or the applicant and staff changes that requires a water feature for the detention retention pond. That's always something that you could add to your motion. Otherwise, it would not in text be required.
I know.
So that's the thing there. But even beyond that, at most, that would be considered a design standard. Different from the kind of code requirements that Phil and David will be looking at for a detention pond. Another thing to note along with that is there was an interpretation issued by the building official and development services that detention ponds specifically cannot count towards open space requirements per platting regulations. So even if we do things here with the zoning piece, the detention ponds still can't count towards open space permitting. That's why we're recommending to remove that language from the PD.
Okay, we'll have a discussion and everything.
Sounds good.
At the horseshoe, Commissioner Hampton?
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on that. Did I understand the same, Mr. Navarro? I understand that detention has engineering requirements usually because of either slopes or other issues that require fencing to address safety issues. But did I understand that the considerations could be made in terms of design standards related to that would allow it to be considered as open space while not functional open space available for use? Is that a fair assessment of what I heard?
Yes, ma'am, and I apologize for didn't introduce myself. My name is David Navarro. Welcome to the new commissioners. I'm here with transportation brief on behalf of the engineering division of development services. Yes, ma'am, we could certainly, we're following our standards, and I just don't want the commission to misconstrue the idea of open space because it wouldn't be. It would, the detention pond looks exciting. That's where I was hanging out when I was younger, you know, my early years. But it would not be that I was sending kids around. Times have changed, I know, but it's just dangerous.
All the kids hanging around that good old detention pond.
We would want that those inlets to be protected, not just from little ones, but also exploring, but also from garbage or items that are not intended to be clogging the drainage there. So for many reasons, the city standards require us to impose applicants to build a fence. And it doesn't say what type of fence. The applicant can come in and say decorative fences, and if they want to volunteer that, we've never seen that. We see chain link fence is what they go with because that's the cheapest option. So, but if the commission chooses to, they can impose different items that we could definitely work at permitting. Absolutely.
Thank you. In advance of the conversation, Mr. And certainly, I remember correctly, when we heard this, it's a significant number of trees in one of the open space areas. And how does that factor into consideration for mentioning, as try to understand what the implications of this may be?
Well, whether it's a detention area, it's considered a dedication that harvests the overall infrastructure. That's one of the reasons that it's not considered open space. And in that, there's actually, in the trees removed within that detention area are not subject to mitigation or defensive prosecution because they're necessary, engineering structure for the project. So essentially on that basis, it determines that open space is not considered for detention area, detention retention.
I have another question, but that's good for now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Carl.
Given then that permitting is not going to view detention retention as open space regardless of what amenities are included in it, does this development plan submitted meet the requirement for the three acres of open space?
It was the 3 acres for open space.
They're proposing it, but they're including detention and retention. But given that detention and retention can't be counted, does the development plan they submitted meet that 3 acre requirement? I would assume not, if they're asking for it to be included.
Yeah, so if the commission voted on staff's recommendation and that language was taken out, it's possible that the applicant would need to redesign some elements of their proposed development plan to then meet that minimum 3 acre requirement.
Trevor.
Okay, so I sort of have a similar question about this development plan. If this development plan is approved and the language to strike any subsequent development plans is included, then my understanding is because there's not a tremendous amount of detail in this development plan. But by striking that language of requiring another development plan, are we essentially just leaving it open-ended for subsequent development?
Yes.
Because the language that we're striking, I'm on page 810. So we're striking C. Are there any other uses? Is this development plan encompassing all of the potential uses that are anticipated? Because by deleting C, we are removing the requirement for an additional development plan to be presented if there are other uses contemplated.
So items A would still require a development plan, right? Because it does specifically call out that there is a development plan with the PD. It's exhibit 1076A. It tells you that the text controls over development plan, et cetera. Item B, isn't changing, but that basically says what we do in all PDs for single family and plat can also function as a development plan. As far as striking item C, I believe that's standard X in all PDs.
I just wanted to make sure there wasn't an inadvertent deletion of something that would then have some sort of an open-ended process for someone to come back and develop something that is not, again, it's more of a question. I was just surprised by the deletion. If you're saying that it's all wrapped up still, but like one of the comment letters we received was that they're concerned about adding a trailer park here. I mean, I don't see that in this current plan. So maybe that's just a misconception, but I wasn't sure what the all other uses referred to in 810, section C, which has been deleted.
Yeah, so any development on this property would need to comply with the PD 1076 conditions and plan, whatever those may be. So if someone we use a manufactured housing development, that wouldn't comply with the development plan on file, and it may not comply with the other standards in this PD. So either the development plan would need to be amended, that would be either a minor amendment or development plan case, a miscellaneous item, or the text of the PD would also need to be amended, in which case that's another full zoning case.
Okay, so just to confirm, the development plan we have in front of us, if they wanted to change any additional access points, there's an access point request in front of us. But if there were any additional access points or other things that came up because of engineering, they would have to come back and amend the development plan.
Right, so this case is kind of unique, simply because like there are very few textual changes that are being proposed. Those textual changes are basically what triggers the requirement that it come before you as a full zoning case. If those textual changes were not needed to allow for these changes to the plan that's on file, it would be a miscellaneous item. It would just be a development plan or a minor amendment to an existing development plan.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rubin.
This may predate you, Mr. Volpe, certainly predates you, Ms. Garza, but this site has a long history of zoning applications on it, right?
Absolutely, most visited, absolutely, since the day I became the convention for 5 years.
Early in the pandemic, wasn't there an application to put some sort of RV resort, was what they were calling it here?
That was the very first case, and if I remember, the last 3 numbers was 318. And it was to be a RV resort, which my commissioners baptized me with fire in. And told me no, and I graciously, I accepted the no, I learned to be gracious, and we moved on.
And this is now an R5 based PD with accessory community center or something allowed, right? So you couldn't do the manufactured housing here
No, you could not.
today.
Yeah,
Okay,
you would need an MH district. We manufacture.
MH.
For all our-
Okay, and just one other question. I can't recall many PDs that we've seen for essentially single family zoning districts with small tweak. Can you recall?
In the time I've been here, I haven't seen a lot. When I can speak of being a senior planner in the past tense now, when I was a senior planner, commissioner planner, and I had a PD request for single family on Haymarket Road.
That was that.
Yes, yeah. I lost my train of thought. What staff recommended in that instance was essentially base single family zoning districts. This is neither here nor there, but I will mention as well with this case, if it had come before us today, we probably would have also recommended base districts rather than the PD. Now that's in the past, so we can't really go back and change that, but.
Which wouldn't have required a development plan.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? Commissioner Black?
But just for the record,
Pardon me,
this
Commissioner.
case came before the one we had. So this case was approved before the one was denied.
Oh, yeah, no, that's the problem.
Thank you, Commissioner Young.
Yes, I'm trying to follow up on Commissioner Treadway's questions. I think I heard you say in response to her question that come what may, unless it's further amended, the development plan that's before us today will be the development plan.
That is correct.
Okay. How then could there be a circumstance where section 106B is triggered?
Yeah, that might be a good question for the applicant this afternoon. Like I said, that's very standard text we have in the development plan section of all PDs. You know, this is boilerplate language that's approved by the city attorney's office. So I'm not aware, and I don't know, Lillian, if you're aware of why that language is proposed to be struck.
It's boilerplate language for cases that are approved on a conceptual plan, so that if all we're developing is a single family neighborhood, they can skip the development plan approval process and go straight to preliminary plat. I have never seen this provision before, in a PD with an attached development plan. And I can see a lot of confusion and problems. What happens if we approve this and then a month or two from now, the applicant submits a preliminary plat that differs from the approved development plan and says, I'm invoking 106B.
Yeah, Commissioner Young, I could see that confusion, and if the body wants to approve this and strike that subsection to avoid that situation, that would probably make things clear for development services later on the road.
Well, I'm not allowed to agree with you during the briefing, but you don't hear me asking any further questions on that subject. Next question, following up on someone's question. If in fact the proposed development plan does not meet the open space requirement, if detention areas are not counted, then if we were to not count detention areas, would the proper motion be to approve subject to that and to a revised development plan?
Yes, so, the commission could recommend approval subject to staff's recommendation conditions and a revised development plan addressing X, Y, Z. That would then, move forward, get closer to going to council. Between CPC and council, the applicant would need to, revise their development plan so that a minimum of 3 acres of open space are provided outside of those detention ponds. Another option would be to hold the case under advisement, give the applicant a chance to revise the development plan with that consideration, and then it would go back to CPC. You guys could take a look at it and say, oh yeah, we're good. We've looked at it and everything's set. We're good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna try to phrase this a bit. Would staff be like to change its recommendation to 51P 7076-106B to strike recommendation as brief to strike subsection B?
106B?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's more Daniel's territory, but obviously anything that makes this clearer, avoids hurdles at permitting, we are all for. Did that answer your question?
It's just like a B.
I don't think I got a yes or no. Either way is fine. I just probably would like a yes or no from staff.
Sure, yes.
Which is that?
8.
8. Okay, Commissioner Carpenter?
Okay, so it's the bars. What happened along Haymarket to make it impossible to have entrance exit there?
Yes, ma'am. The previously approved development plan had requirements for drainage to be worked out with the adjacent property owner. The adjacent property owner was essentially changed their mind and wasn't willing to participate as they had initially planned to. Without their participation, it made it impossible for the development to move forward with that proposal. So they had to come back and reassess the only area where they could have that driveway not on a drainage facility in order to comply with city staff.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Sorry, but I would also before that to the applicant as well to elaborate if you don't mind.
Commissioner Hatton, please.
Thank you, Commissioner Morrison. But we still require the sidewalk facility as part of this development, is that correct? And Haymarket.
It would, extended sidewalk would still be required, but the requirements would be enforced.
Thank you.
Unless a waiver is requested and granted, if a mid-walk portion of Haymarket, I would have to check what conditions exist on both sides. It could qualify for a waiver, but we will ask for that sidewalk to be enforced.
I have a question. If there is, so you're saying, and I go there mentally, I believe there is already a sidewalk because there is a school.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
I know, there's a school, so there's, thank you.
There's a school, you're correct, there's a school to lot north, they would not qualify for a waiver, they would be required to start procedure. Because the school is one, denied offense. Required as far as the waivers, the school is present.
Then they must.
But they must.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, Ms. Munoz is here, so we'll go back to case number 4 and allow Commissioner Young to sign off, because he does have a conflict. He has signed off. Commissioner, this has been briefed before. Do we have any updates?
No, there were no updates other than clarification points on the meeting conditions. Primarily that there would be 10% surface parking permitted. And then of course, the big reason why it's returning, which is the dry overlay being removed instead of a D1 overlay being added. Those are the only changes.
Any questions? Any questions on this item? Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions or requests for the certificate appropriate for signs? Any questions on the sign cases? Requests for briefing? Okay. Well, that concludes the briefing of the Dallas City Planning Commission. It is 10:45 a.m. We'll see you all at the Horseshoe at 12:30. Enjoy your long lunch and don't get used to it. This never happens. You brought us good luck today. We'll see you at the Horseshoe at 12:30 sharp, Commissioners. Enjoy your lunch.